Hey guys, welcome back to... The last time I made a video for this channel was almost 6 months ago because some things have happened, but we don't have time to talk about that because we have a more important topic at hand. My opinions on Diablo 4. Wow, what an original idea. How did he come up with that? The last time I've played Diablo 3 Plus was in the early access period, which means two things. One, that I'm very good with money, and two, it was more than a year ago, which means the game definitely had some time to get better. Right? The one and only character I've made during those days only got to level 78, doing the same nightmare dungeons until level 100, then attempting a seemingly unfair boss without any other reasonable or interesting character progression just wasn't compelling enough. There were many glaring issues, including lack of endgame content, managing inventory space for all the bullshit items you don't even need, so I got quits and went on to doing my own things. After successfully burning myself out of every game I've enjoyed, a silly little idea made it into my head. What if I checked out D4? I mean, they must have done something to make the game worth playing. I've seen like 7 Asmongold videos about it. There is no way the game is still bad, right? Please. So, after making space for the game, which is about 95 gigabytes by the way, I went straight back into the familiar world of Sanctuary. But I wasn't just playing around this time, I had a plan. Not only did I want to go past level 78 and reach the fabled 100, but also beat every single boss in the game, which also includes Uber Lilith, the final boss of Diablo 4. Now, the obvious question, what class to play? Since I wanted to deal damage, Druid was immediately out of the question. Wanting something mobile made me toss out the Necromancer too. Sorcerer was definitely on my list, but I've already had some experience with the Rogue, so I wanted to give myself that advantage. And thus, Kala the Rogue was born. I chose this name because you can Kala when you need to kill some demons. Since I've already finished the campaign with one character, I've had the option to go straight to the open world to explore, and level efficiently, of course. From my extensive 50 hours gameplay knowledge, I knew Helltides are a great source of both items and XP. It didn't even occur to me until writing this script that as a level 1 character I shouldn't even be in a Helltide since it previously came from later difficulties, but more about them later. The new patch, one of them, I honestly have no idea which one, introduced a Blood Maiden boss, which makes pretty much all other events in Helltide second in priority. After putting 3 hearts on sacrificial pillars, a bunch of monsters start spawning in a circle around the players, and after a while the boss spawns. Besides the loot being really good, the boss also has a few one-shot abilities, which can definitely bring some haha XD moments from seeing random unprepared players falling over. Hilarious. But what's even better about this event is that it's repeatable ad nauseum until everyone is out of hearts, spawning a crazy amount of mobs, XP, shards for Helltide only chests and items. And since a lot of people also want these rewards, you can pretty much AFK level here, since at least 2 to 3 people are constantly clearing mobs around. Which reminds me of a very similar way of leveling up your character in another ARPG. But this one at least doesn't need my poor little laptop while doing so. And this is pretty much how my pre-level 50 adventure went. It was clear to see they've significantly increased the speed at which you level up and get more legendaries, so that's an improvement for sure. And another one is the loot itself. Playing in the Season 4 Loot Reborn definitely made me want to see what they've changed, but before I get into that, can we talk about how weirdly meta this feels? Like, usually there is some connection between the theme of the new season and its title. Season was called Season of Malignant because of, well, the malignant hearts you could collect. And I bet they've made changes to the system of the game, but didn't put that in the title. I already can't wait for Season 5 Memory Caching Reborn or Season 6 The Kernel Level Adventure. But yeah, enough of that, and let's look at how the loot was reborn or some shit, I don't know. One way was through the introduction of crafting, or in D4's case, tempering. At every blacksmith you can add a tempered affix to any of your items to fit it what your character needs. For rogues, one of the big ones is bonus to vulnerable damage. Vulnerable is a debuff which, once on the enemy, it increases the damage they take from pretty much everything, acting as an overall damage multiplier. Knowing how strong of a stat it is and the fact that you can put it on 7 out of 11 of your items, tempering your items the right way becomes pretty high in priority. There is more nuance to the system, but But outside your main offensive effects, the rest really doesn't matter. As long as you don't venture into the shaky grounds of hardcore, your only goal is to kill demons, not to survive. And you're gonna do a lot of that. And so with the addition of these really strong items, I decided to pick up the difficulty a bit. For a fresh character, you can either start at world tier 1 or 2, the latter being a better option, since the downside is really small compared to the faster leveling. To go further, you need to go back to the first major town in the campaign and beat the level 50 dungeon. Originally, I've managed to do this with a level 42 character, and seeing the difficulty rise compared to everything else, beating this capstone dungeon felt satisfying, like I've earned this increase in reward. Now I kinda just flew through the dungeon and blow up the boss, so the power from tempering definitely feels nice to have, but it feels a bit unbalanced. After unlocking world tier 3, the gameplay loop got another piece, which is the nightmare dungeons. These are essentially just regular dungeons you can find through the world, but with additional difficulty mods and rewards on top. These were my primary source of XP, since I could choose to do way higher level content, while the Hell Tides and the Blood Fountain Blood Maiden bosses were, well, they gave me the loot. And with this, the inkling feeling started to come back again from a year ago. Is this gonna be the game until I'm 100? That's all they've managed to change? Now I could also mention the introduction of the Iron Wolves, a mercenary company from as far back as Diablo 2. They were being fed up by being killed by demons, so they started killing demons instead, which is a way of thinking I honestly cannot fault. Instead of allowing us to hire mercenaries like they used to, they give us quests and a reputation to grind. Oh god, please don't make me grind rep again. But every level of reputation you gain is another tier of loot, which can even include some uniques, which for the most part you'll outlevel in an hour or so. And the only place to gain reputation outside the quests is Hell Tides, so by extension, Hell Tides are even better at giving loot than virtually anything else in the game. Should have been called Season of Hell Tides Reborn or something, but I digress. Another Loot Reborn related system is Masterworking. It is pretty similar to how you could upgrade items in the first iteration of the game. You simply increase all stats on the item by 5%. Now to add a little spice to the mix, every 4th level increases a random stat by 25%. Now you can just accept the random increase in a singular affix and move on to the next tier of upgrades with a subpar item, or at the low price of 5 million gold, redo the masterworking entirely on your item, so you can hit the 25% upgrade on your best affix your item has. Let's say vulnerable damage, but this crafting requires special crafting mats. Where the hell do I even get those? Well, if you teleport to this city, interact with this NPC, then mount up and get to this spot on the map, you will not find it because it's not here. Instead, you need this town, since here you can just find the obelisks for the greater Artificer's Pit. They're totally called Artificer's Pit, they've never been anything else. Doing a Nightmare Dungeon tier 45, you can enter the pit and feel free to grind it as much as possible, since the power you can gain from it is insane and it barely has an entry cost. Then I hit level 100. This came a little out of nowhere. It wasn't a cathartic experience, it kinda just happened. Where you get another point into the Paragon board, which I'm far too deep in to explain now, so you just have to accept that it happened, and started making my trek towards a very special waypoint. The one which leads me straight to the Throne of Lilith. My first encounter was at level 89. Based on how much stronger I was than anything near my level, made me think that even if not beating it this early, I could do some solid attempts, maybe get a feel for the mechanics. So yeah, that wasn't gonna work out. Even at 98, with much better gear, it was a struggle to even get her down to 80%. First attacks are relatively easy to deal with. She spawns blood orbs, and if you don't destroy them, they blow up and one-shot you. Every small attack you get this increases the blood orbs and other basic skills damage, so you either get good at dodging or have enough DPS to deal with her fast. These attacks could be ignored since you need a lot of stacks for them to deal meaningful damage, but what you can stack too much is this skull debuff. Getting hit by the more dangerous skills gives you a stack of exponentially increasing damage taken debuff. Kinda easy to understand why you wouldn't want that. In the earlier attempts, the damage isn't even an issue. I genuinely sucked dodging the one-shot waves, and that made me retry over and over and over again. I've had to portal back to town to repair because I've fully broken my items many times over. That also didn't help, that I've had decent attempts just go down the toilet because I've accidentally hit a movement ability and went flying into death multiple times. Way too many times, like how hard it is to just not press dash when at the edge of the circle. armed with much better gear and seemingly better understanding of the fight, I went straight back in to grind some more attempts and rack up a nice repair bill. The beginning of the fight felt like I had nailed it down. Dash in near the middle of the circle, drop a caltrops before she lands, then dash back in as soon as she's down and start DPSing, keeping up near 100% caltrops or poison trap uptime for more damage. I even managed to get a stagger on her, so she gets knocked out for a few seconds and I get to DPS freely, getting close to 50% HP. Everything was going swimmingly. Then, yeah, it looked too good to be true, and for the next 20-30 attempts I simply couldn't get her low enough for the next attack phase. After taking a little break, getting some item upgrades and changing my skills around, I felt like I've started making progress again. 60% HP, 50% HP, and now around 40% she goes flying again and starts summoning demons. And that means one thing, that I'm moving forward. Seeing a new ability from her for the first time in the past 24 hours, I completely jinxed it, missing my dash again. It took me a solid 45 minutes to be in a position where I could even learn the new moves, let alone go any further. I somehow didn't get squished by the circle attack here, and I thought I cracked the code. Spoiler alert, I didn't. But I was dodging and surviving attacks I haven't seen before, so that was really starting to get the rhythm of it all. Every piece seemingly put in place, and overconfidence once again took its toll. Like back to back, but I was slowly but surely improving. Nearly all of my attempts have made it to the circle slam, and I had more and more time to experiment, and an idea started to form on how to get through this. If you stand roughly at this position, then wait for her to slam down and immediately dash inside, you can dodge both the circle and the wave attacks. I knew what had to be done, I just needed to execute. Getting down to similarly low HP, seeing the 3 demons being summoned, and I wish you could see it happen, but my recording software decided that nobody should know how this one goes, or the next like 40 tries, so yeah, thanks a lot. Now that I can use several hours of footage, I'll catch you up to speed instead. I've managed to nail down the slam attacks, and with some more upgrades on my gear, I've actually got through the phase transition, and I felt like I was facing the real deal now. Here she spawns 4 circles, which deal high damage over time, and after a little buffer she will spawn another one close to your position. After this she'll start doing sweeping attacks, making a large part of the platform deadly. At certain points of the fight she also starts breaking off parts of the platform and simultaneously damaging circles, starts shooting homing one-shot projectiles. These 3 attacks can happen pretty much at the same time, so I was completely lost on what even killed me for a while. Also, the skull stack of exponential damage increase from the previous phase stayed during the whole fight, so getting the first phase to pretty much no hit is crucial because the second phase feels way harder and more unforgiving. After breaking the first part of the platform, she'll do a cyclone attack which pulls you in, and if you don't have a skill to break this stun, it's pretty much a death sentence. But these are the pieces of the puzzle, so I just needed to put them together and finish what I've started. I did it! My hands were shaking as the achievements were popping up, and I couldn't even say or do anything besides holding my head in disbelief. Despite all the ways I don't agree with the game's direction, this moment feels like a genuine accomplishment. I did the thing. I beat Diablo 4. And with that sweet, sweet victory in my hands, and I looked at the abysmal loot I gotten and logged off for a bit. As I logged back in later that day to check if there is anything I missed before saying goodbye to this character, I just saw that I had received a special crafting material. In fact, now I had 4 of them, since completing certain tasks or slaying some bosses gave me one here and there, I just didn't notice. With these materials and a small loan of 50 million gold, you could create any of the 6 fabled uber unique items. So, to have a proper send-off, I did a Nightmare Dungeon 100 and collected the rest of the money I needed, and made a fancy helmet for my character, which will surely look good on the Eternal Realm until the end of time. Now, I feel like I can answer the question you came here for. The past 4 days have been a surprising amount of fun, and to say I didn't enjoy the time I've spent would be a straight up lie. The game is definitely heading into the right direction, and I'm glad to see that. There are still things I don't like or things I do differently. But it's one thing to joke around and make fun of shortcomings, but at the end of the day, it comes from the fact that we all want to play a good game. I'm not sure if I'm gonna check back next season or not, but I surely won't regret my time spent on this one. And as tough as the Uber Lilith fight was, she's not the hardest boss I fought in a Diablo game. But until then,
Stay a while and listen.